On behalf of Pandemonium, thank you for allowing me to talk to you this morning.
No problem.
How did your first week of school go?
I would say the first week of school is one of those you just survive.
Yeah.
I mean, really and truly, it's waiting all summer long to get the students back. It felt like an eternity, and so to finally have all of you back and on campus, students are what make the school. It really is, and it's kind of the lifeblood. And so while I had a great time meeting the faculty and getting all the planning and stuff going, it was really go time when you guys showed up on campus. And so that to me was the exciting piece, and it's really why I do this work. And so it was fun to see everybody back and excited. And so the first week was, I will be honest, was a blur. It was convocation, and then just trying to get a sense of the schedule and the timing of everything. And so I would say that in my second week now, I'm feeling much more comfortable with just how the school operates on a day-to-day basis, because now I can see it operate. So.
Yeah, obviously. And now that you're finally sitting in this office, what have you seen so far? What do you want to build upon? What encourages you about this community?
Okay. What I've seen so far is that this is a school that is rich in tradition. It has an incredible infrastructure in terms of the teaching staff and the people who work here. I love the fact that they really love kids, and that to me says a lot about an institution, says a lot about a place, and especially a school. And so that's been great, because I think that the relationships that our faculty builds with students is really what makes this place as special as it is. Yes, there's the academic piece and the athletics and the arts, but it's the relationships that you have with those teachers who are teaching you in those areas, or those coaches, that makes this place special. And so, so I've been very excited about that. In terms of what I see for this place, and that is building on the things that we do really well here, continuing to make sure that we're pushing ourselves and getting better, that we don't get too comfortable. I think when you become too comfortable, you stop growing, you stop wanting to get to that next level, and I don't want to see us do that. So I think it's important that we be just slightly uncomfortable as we go through our day, and to really help this school, our students, the faculty, the parents, to be the best it possibly can be. And what does that look like and mean? I think we'll decide those things over this next coming year. But I know that this is a faculty that's really eager to take that next step, and so I'm excited to help them do that.
What's one of your favorite things about this job so far, and what's one of your least favorite parts about this job?
Let's see, favorite and least favorite. The favorite thing is clearly the students. I mean, I try to block out time on my schedule every day to spend time with students. So I do morning carpool every morning, and that'll be a thing for me. I'll continue to do that for as long as I'm here, because that's just wonderful to be able to see the kids as they get out, but also spending time being able to walk the halls. One of the things that I have on my agenda in terms of my own goals is to actually get in and see every teacher teach. And so in order to do that, you got to get out of this office, and you got to actually get out there. And and so that's been that's one of the big pieces on my agenda, is to get out in the hallways, to see teachers teaching, to watch kids interacting, also to get to the games and get to the plays. I've been to a couple games already. My guess is over the course of this year I will have gone to a lot of games and a lot of plays and those kinds of things. But that's how you get to know our community. That's how you get to know our school, and that's really an important piece for me. I want to know this school as well as anybody in this school.
Perfect. You know a lot about schools. What is one unique thing about Collegiate, and what is one unique thing about you?
Unique thing about Collegiate and about me. Unique thing about Collegiate, and this is I've been around a lot of schools and done a lot of work with different schools. The thing that I found that was truly just fascinating to me, and that is that as long as Collegiate has been around, I mean, people still consider this a neighborhood school. Mm-hmm. And so, to see kids walking to school is actually pretty rare for an independent school. I mean, it just is. I mean, most of the time it's carpool, and so you have, kids getting dropped off, or, in some of the cities I've worked in, kids take the bus in or the subway. And so to see so many families and kids walking to school was actually really amazing to me, because that's not something that I experienced either when I was in Boston or New York or Phoenix in terms of those schools. That's just not something that happens. And so that is a very, very special and unique thing that happens at Collegiate. And I think the other thing that I've found incredibly special since I've been here is the affinity for this place in terms of the generations. And so, I've run into people who went here, and then their kids went here, and then their grandkids have gone here, and so this generational component of how long people have been affiliated and or around Collegiate is also really special. It is clearly an institution, and I mean, I've met a couple parents who came back to Louisville when they had kids so that their kids could go here. So that's pretty special in terms of the school. Now, in terms of what is unique about me, that's a good question. I don't know that I don't know that I'm I don't know that I'm all that unique. But I will say that I'm passionate about this work. I really am. I love this work. I really do. It's not a it doesn't feel like a job to me. I think it feels more like a responsibility. It's a calling almost. I don't know exactly how or when I realized that I loved being in schools and around kids and that kind of thing. But it has become a part of who I am, and so I don't see myself ever not working in a school. And so that's how I feel.
All right. How do you think this job is going to make you grow as an educator and as a person?
As an educator, it's going to push me. I mean, it's going to push me. Whenever you have a school that is a JK through 12 school, you have to be able to look at the educational spectrum for 13 or 14 years, and so understanding what is appropriate and what the needs are for a kid who is in JK all the way through 5th grade is very different than 6th grade through 8th grade, which is then very different from 9th grade through 12th grade. And so I think the thing that will help me grow is that I have fantastic people around me, that get education at those levels that can help me start to really encapsulate this larger school entity that we have. There's no doubt that we have 3 different divisions, but understanding that even though we have 3 divisions, we have one school. And so looking at the connective tissues between the divisions, really digging in and making sure that if you do come into our school in JK, that you are having an educational experience that actually really builds on each other all the way through until you graduate. And then, I mean, the big thing for me is this year is helping the faculty and working with them around what kinds of things do we want our graduates to have. So when you graduate from Collegiate, what skills, what character traits, what do we want you to be able to do, how you act, so what are those things, and then secondarily, how do we every day intentionally help you get those things? And I think that's a big conversation, because I think it's one of those things is that we do a lot of things instinctively, but we don't necessarily do them intentionally. And so I want us to really think more intentionally about how we do things.
Building upon that, what are some of your short-term and long-term goals as a headmaster?
As a head? Short-term goals really is one of the things that I think is important one of the things that I've seen at the school is that we are a bigger school than most people think we are. I think a lot of people still think of Collegiate as a small school, 200, 300 kids. But we have 715 students now. We have 135 or so full-time employees here. We in a sense have grown exponentially over the last 10 years. And so the things that I see that we need to think about are what are our policies and procedures around the things that we do, both as faculty as also as well as students. And because I think some of the things that we do are still designed around us being a smaller place. And we have to start thinking of ourselves as a larger place. And so even small things like security, emergency response, those kinds of things where when we were smaller, it was easier for us to deal with those things. Well, now we're larger and it's more complex, and we need to think more complex about these kinds of issues. And so, for short term, I think it's identifying some of those things and starting to put some fixes in place for that. For the long term, I have I have these ideas about, taking collegiate from being a very good school to being a great school, to being a school that is highly sought after here in the Louisville area, to a school that has a reputation that's highly sought after in the whole Southeast. And I want us at some point in time in my tenure here to be a place where people who are interested in great educational practices, in innovation, come to see what we're doing.
Yeah.
And if we can do those kinds of things, if we can get our teachers to help, in terms of their own expertise to get to that place, I think that would be a great landing spot for us. But what does that mean? That means that, guess what? We're gonna have we have some work ahead of us. There's no question. And but I think this is a faculty that is really and ready to work, and I'm ready and willing to work with them.
Now, speaking of this, as your first year here, you get thrown into the advisory program.
Absolutely.
What's it like leading a group of us seniors?
Seniors?
in your first year here?
Well, you know what? I love it. And what better way to learn a school than through the eyes of a student? I'm an adult, and so I see the things that I see, and I see the school through the eyes of a faculty member because I work with them, and and those kinds of things. But to really start to understand the school through the eyes of someone who's actually lived it, so in my advisory, I have lifers, I have students that came in as middle schoolers, and then students that came in as just a high school, and so I have a wide range of perspective. I will say that they are a funny and fun bunch, so I'm having a good time, and also I like using them as my soundboard because it's kind of like canary in the mine type of thing, and so asking them questions about their experience and about what they would want to change if they could do it all over again, and understanding that as seniors they do have a significant voice in terms of what this place should look like and should be about. And I hope that they recognize that, me being their advisor is really an opportunity for them also to tell me what's going on in the school and to help me get a better perspective of what I need to be doing and what our faculty needs to be doing.
And you think that's going to continue for years to come? You think you'll get another group?
Oh, I plan. I don't plan on, unless somebody tells me that I've been a terrible advisor. No, you are not allowed. No, my goal would be to advise every year, and I'd love to get to a place where I have the time and the ability to go back into the classroom as well, maybe on an independent study basis or semester-long courses, which is what I was doing before I came here. I just don't have the way the job is set up. I just don't have the time to do for a whole year class, but to be able to do an elective class or a small seminar type of class would be great. One of the things that I would love to be able to do, long term, looking long term, is to be able to teach an ethics an ethics class, maybe in the middle school, potentially, something along those lines. So the goal is to stay connected to kids in one way or shape or another. So definitely advising, potentially somewhere down the road, back in the classroom again.
What do the collegiate cornerstones mean to you? And to the school? Yeah,
well, it's honestly one of the reasons why this job was so appealing to me. Ideas of character and integrity and honor are high on my list in terms of what I think kids need to be successful. Yes, I think they need the academic preparation. Absolutely, I think you need to be able to speak well. You need to be able to think creatively and critically. I mean, I think all those things are vitally important. But I don't want to graduate kids who can do all those things and don't have any and don't come to the table with integrity, who can't be responsible or compassionate, who don't approach things with honor. Because if that's the case, and I think I've failed myself as an educator, I'd never want my own kids to have to be really, really bright and smart and wonderful, but then to be lousy people. And so that's important to me, and it's as important, honestly, to me as the academic life of a child. And so when I saw the cornerstones in terms of how the school embraces those cornerstones, it helped show me that this was a good place and a good fit for me.
Now, what's a typical day like for you now that you're in a second week? I guess we kind of talked.
Typical?
Sure.
meetings. I have a number of direct reports, and so I meet with them every week to see what's going on, and then I have some that are bi-weekly, and then I have some larger kind of team meetings, which is like the entire administration, and then also just the division heads. I do a piece with them, and so my day can be pretty varied, and so it's a combination of things on campus as well as off campus. So, for example, today I'm heading downtown for lunch and having lunch with the Rotary Club, because part of what my job entails is that I start to make connections within the community, but also partnerships. These are opportunities for me to meet people so that I can partner our school, so that we now start to be bigger than just this little place here in the Highlands, but we're connected to U of L, we're connected to the Idea Festival, we're connected in multiple ways to multiple entities out there, and so that is part of my job. And what that does is it's a visibility for the school. It allows me to recruit, if you will, in terms of helping people understand a little bit more about what we do here at Collegiate, and to get the word out without people having preconceived notions about who we are. It's easier for me to tell people who we are than to just allow them to think that we are something that we may not be. So those kinds of things happen, and then generally in the afternoon, I'm trying to get to a game, or last night I was at back to school night, for the middle school. So it's a combination of those kinds of things. I try to get home, but I generally try to get home by 6 o'clock every day. So that still gives me plenty of time to do the after school things and so forth. Because having dinner with my family is important. I have 2 little girls that I like to spend time with as well, and so I generally don't work from about 6 or whenever I leave until they go to bed, and that's kind of my own time. And then I'm a night owl, so I will shoot emails out at 1 or 2 in the morning sometimes, but that's a typical day.
Now, what is something that none of us know about you already?
None of you know about me. None of you know about me. Wow.
Well, fun part of it.
I'm pretty open book, but that no one knows. Let's see. I don't even know. Well, small things. I'm from Hopkinsville, so most people know that. But I was the MVP of the Class A state tournament basketball when I was a senior. So I was MVP there. Let's see other things
sports, not that.
Yeah.
Well, talking about that, so you're from here in Kentucky.
Yep.
And then when you're MVP, and then you go to Harvard and play. What was that experience like? Now my brother goes to Dartmouth.
Oh, he does. Okay,
I won't
the
whole Ivy League thing is interesting to me from a. I'm probably not going to go to one, but just it's interesting of that whole culture and what was that experience like?
Well, the culture. Well, I mean, it was fun
basketball.
It was great playing college basketball. I mean, I had a chance to play Duke at Cameron, and so that was when Duke was on they were in the second year of when they won the back-to-back titles. So Christian Laettner, Grant Hill, those kinds of guys. So you imagine being a freshman going into Cameron and playing Duke after they just won the national championship. So it was intense, but I had a lot of fun. Played against Steve Nash when he was out in Santa Clara. We played out there, and so my 4 years at Harvard were wonderful. They my freshman year, just in terms of adjustment, was a tough year. But after that, I had a lot of fun. It was fun. It was much more fun than what people, I think, give Ivy League schools credit for being. And so it was great. And then I had an opportunity to do a little bit of coaching, and I have some friends that played in the NBA, and so I've had a chance to coach, do a little coaching with them in the summers as well. So it's been fun.
That was the. Did you have a normal recruiting? Were you interested in any other schools, or did Harvard really just?
You know what? Getting to Harvard was, it's kind of serendipitous in the sense that being in the right place at the right time, and then being the person that I was. So I was being recruited by a number of smaller schools, some smaller D1s, and also some D2 schools when I was coming out of college. But I played on a very good high school basketball team, and so
Yeah, in Kentucky, and Indiana, it's
exactly. So
basketball's all around.
it was a big deal. And so when I was a junior in high school, I had a kid on my team named Sergio Luke, and Sergio was an All-American that year, and he was being recruited by everyone. I mean, so Rick Pitino, George Thompson. I mean, you name all the coaches. Luke Karnasaka, which is where he ended up going up at St. John's, but he was being recruited also by LSU, and Dale Brown was the coach actually at LSU, and so Dale Brown came to a game, and I'll get you out of here. But he came to a game to watch Sergio play, and so this is in our little gym in Hopkinsville, and he happened to be sitting next to my mentor. His name was Dr. Pitzer, and Dr. Pitzer said, they were sitting there, and Dale Brown says, well, it looks like Sergio's as good as advertised, and he was. I mean, he's an All-American. The kid can play. There's no question. And he said, but it looks like number 40 might be your best athlete. Well, I was number 40. And so my mentor, Doc, says to Dale Brown, he says, well, he's a junior this year. Could you use him down in LSU because he's looking for confidence? And Dale Brown says, no, he's too small for what I'm looking for because I was a guard, And so the game goes on, and Dale Brown says, well, no, he really is a good athlete. What kind of kid is he? Because, there's some coaches that could use a good athlete. And so my mentor, Doc, says, well, he's a good kid. He's smart. And so Dale Brown says, well, is he Harvard smart? And so it turns out Dale Brown and Doc exchanged phone numbers. This is on a Friday night. And Dale Brown was good friends with the head coach at Harvard, Pete Roby. And so Dale Brown went back to LSU, and he called Pete on that Saturday. And Sunday afternoon, Pete Roby called Doc and said, I hear there's a kid in Kentucky I should be recruiting. And so that is how I ended up even knowing really interested about Ivy League and Ivy League schools. I mean, you're talking about a kid who at that moment in time didn't know that there were 8 Ivy League schools. Thought Brown was a color as opposed to a university. So, I didn't come to this with any preconceived notions about, I've been wanting to go to Harvard since the day I was born. No, it didn't happen that way. And had it not been for that conversation taking place, and me also being the kid that I was, in terms of I was a smart kid, and I did those, I did well in school, and I was a good athlete, so the combination of that and who I was really did that. And so I applied, and I was so naive about applying to Harvard. I had no idea how hard it was to get in. I had no clue about any of those things, and I think actually that probably helped me. That being naive about the process probably helped me not stress out, because I just didn't know. I didn't know. And it wasn't until years later, when I was an admissions officer at the university, that I was like, holy cow, this, I was really lucky to be able to get in. So, so that's how I ended up there.
What is your own personal mission statement? And what is your thought about collegiate's mission statement?
My own personal mission statement is to make sure that I give my all the time. I mean, it really is. It's about using the talents that I've been blessed with, about using the experience that I have to make every day a better day for collegiate. And that's really kind of how I approach every single day. Am I getting better? Is the school getting better because of the decisions that I'm making, because of the things that I'm doing? But I want to make sure that I'm always in a position to give my all to the place, because that's important to me. That piece. In terms of our mission statement, I love our mission statement. I think it's both inspirational as well as aspirational. The thing that I want us to live in that is to ask ourselves, are we doing what we say every day? What are we living our mission statement? Are we living it in math class? Are we living it in the art class? Are we living it on the athletic fields? And in asking ourselves some tough questions around this idea of, if we're not living out certain parts of our mission, how are we going to? Otherwise, we need to change our mission. I don't believe in saying that we do something when in fact we don't do it.
Right.
And if we say we do it, I want us to do it well. And so I do have high expectations for this school in terms of living out that mission. And if we get to a place where we feel like we can live out part of it really, really well, and other parts we can't, then I think at that point we need to go back to the board and we need to say, hey, we are not all of these things. We're only these things. And so let's rethink how we're doing it, because I don't want anyone to think that we are something that we're not.